Covering another musician or band's work can be kind of tricky. For every one good song you get out of that, you also get a cover like Miley Cyrus's Smells Like Teen Spirit. Anyway, that doesn't mean that there aren't some amazing covers in the rock world. So, here are the top 10 best cover songs in rock. The only real rules for this list is that either the original work or the cover has to be able to be categorized somewhere in the rock scene. Also, one cover per entry, as many of the bands and musicians have done other covers over their career. Also, Alien Ant Farm will not be on this list. Just forget it. The answer is no. If you clicked on this top 10 best video, expecting to see Alien Ant Farm, then stop getting your hopes up. No further explanation needed, you know how top 10s work. So, let's get started. Let's take a look at number 10. Number 10. Originally written and performed by Bob Dylan for the movie Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, Knockin' on Heaven's Door was written in a Western style, but then came hair metal and turned every genre of music into a drunk, drug-induced party. Guns N' Roses started performing this cover live in concert for a while before finally making a studio version to be used for the movie Days of Thunder in 1990. Ever since then, the Guns N' Roses cover has become a staple and nostalgic reminder of the hair metal days right near their end before the transition to grunge. While Dylan's original song is great and well-paced to feel like a reflective song, Guns N' Roses' performance feels alive and filled with energy. The opening drum hits and Axl's delivery make everything truly sound like a desperate plea for life. The chorus in the last minute with the choir and piano notes turn this track into something you can't help but scream along with when you hear it. Even with the added sound bites and effects in the recording to help embellish the story, which I'm usually not a fan of, somehow it doesn't deter from the delivery in the song. It starts off quiet and builds into a glorious hair metal anthem. While the original version is still great, I can't help but think of Axl Rose's delivery in this cover whenever someone ever even says the words "Knockin' on Heaven's Door." In all its melodramatic glory, Guns N' Roses made this song a sing-along in the best way possible. Number 9. I will say this probably until the day I die, but Garage Inc. is Metallica's most underrated work. It's a 2-disc collection of covers from many different artists, and in the middle of all that is Metallica's cover of Whiskey in the Jar, originally an Irish drinking song previously recorded by the Highwaymen and later Thin Lizzy. Metallica's energetic and much heavier rendition of Whiskey in the Jar was one of the 2 songs that sold me on Garage Inc. The guitar hooks from Kirk Hammett make this song recognizable to the previous versions while making the song sound louder and much faster, like Metallica. On top of that, James Hetfield's voice does wonders to make an Irish folk song sound like something you can envision playing in the background to a drunken bar fight. After the album was released and the song finally featured as a single from Garage Inc. in the year 2000, Metallica's cover of Whiskey in the Jar would go on to win the Grammy for Best Hard Rock Performance.
Oh, it's a Grammy!
Hey, don't throw your garbage down here!
This is a great example of a band taking an original piece of music and turning it into their own style. While Thin Lizzy might have been the band to bring it to the rock side, it was Metallica who truly perfected it. Whether it was their love for Thin Lizzy back in the day, or they just had enough Irish whiskey in their system, they nailed this Grammy-winning performance and in turn created a cover that is arguably the best possible rendition of the song.
Whiskey in the jar.
Number 8.
I knew he must have been about 17.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Anyone that thinks women don't belong in rock is a moron. Back in 1975, the Arrows wrote and released this song in a very standard by-the-numbers delivery. You could definitely hear that original style, and it's fine. But 7 years later, in 1982, came Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, who slapped everyone in the face and nailed this song, and permanently solidified it into one of the most iconic songs, not just cover songs, in rock ever. What makes it being one of the best covers in rock is Joan Jett's delivery. The raw talent in that singing and how she can carry the notes so well, sounding gruff and smooth at the same time, helps build the track along with a great extended guitar chord to close out the last third of the song to really give that song a feel of passion for rock. Joan Jett has gone on to play this with other bands and famous musicians, including recently like with Trans-Siberian Orchestra this past New Year's Eve. Now a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts cemented their style with this cover, and nothing against the original writers of the song, but it's this version that should stand out in rock history. Number 7.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you.
Definitely the most recent entry on this list, and undeniably the most unexpected band to cover a song by Simon and Garfunkel from 1964. However, on Disturbed's surprise 6th studio album Immortalized from 2015 came a studio cover to remember.
The sound of silence.
While there are some musicians and bands who aren't always too keen on their work being covered or changed up, Simon and Garfunkel gave Disturbed their blessing after hearing it, and it's understandable why. They took a slow, contemplative track and turned it into a sprawling, momentum-building masterpiece. The added string section and piano, along with some thunderous drum pounding from Mike Wengren, create a truly atmospheric and hypnotic performance that doesn't just get your attention, but rather grabs you by the ear and screams the sound of silence at you. The quiet, quick guitar contrasts so well with the deep orchestral elements, and Draymond's delivery could not be any better. And if that wasn't enough to convince you, then you owe it to yourself to see the band's Grammy-nominated performance on Conan.
And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made.
Sometimes a cover doesn't just give a different performance, but changes the overall presentation and dynamic altogether. In the case of The Sound of Silence, Disturbed proved they have matured over time from the days of the wahs and swung for the fences in this amazing performance. Number 6. This one is most likely a cover that most of you haven't heard before, and if you have, it's mostly because you associate it with Led Zeppelin's cover. As it turns out, Led Zeppelin also covered this original song, When the Levee Breaks, dating back to 1929 by Kansas Joe McCoy and Memphis Minnie. The original song is literally about a flood from the Mississippi River. Led Zeppelin then turned it into a slow, sludgy rock track, but the reason I say A Perfect Circle's version is the best is because of what they turned it into. Released in 2004 on A Perfect Circle's emotive, politically charged covers album, the version strips away all speed and volume as it becomes an emotional, regretful ballad about losing hope. Maynard's vocals, matched with gorgeous piano notes from James Iha and fantastic guitar work from Billy Howardell, make this undeniably my favorite song on that album. But even with all that said, it pales in comparison to their 2010 live performance at Red Rocks Amphitheater. This is one of the times where I hate YouTube copyright bots, because I would definitely play the entire performance right here if I could. It is by far the most emotionally wrenching and gorgeous performance from A Perfect Circle I have ever heard. I honestly think that listening to the second half of this song is enough to stop anyone dead in their tracks just to hear how good these men are live. Emotive sometimes gets a bad rap for not being as complete sounding as the previous two albums from the band, but when you hear these songs live, it changes your whole perspective. When the Levee Breaks especially will stay with you for the rest of your life after you hear it. Number 5.
Covered hill to landslide broad town.
The alternative scene of the 90s was wildly different from what is labeled as alternative today, but when people talk about famous alternative bands, I almost always think of the Smashing Pumpkins. Whether it's your style of music or not, you have to at least appreciate the music that Billy Corgan and company created back in the surge of alternative and grunge. But of all the amazing and wildly different songs that the Smashing Pumpkins created is a cover of Fleetwood Mac's original 1975 masterpiece from their self-titled album. What's interesting about the Smashing Pumpkins acoustic cover was that it was originally a B-side to the single Disarm in 1994. I've heard many arguments both for and against Corgan's voice in quieter songs like this. In my opinion, I think it works great. It's a unique sound for sure, but in a song like this paired with a guitar, he nails this performance. Somehow Billy Corgan takes the already discouraging and somber style of the Smashing Pumpkins and uses this cover of Landslide to make everyone get more emotional than when Sephiroth killed Eris.
And I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hill.
It was either I show that scene, or the scene at the end of Marley and Me with the dog on the table. I thought this would be less dramatic. I can't really say which version I think is better as both have different sounds due to the vocals, but I definitely know that this acoustic cover is always worth listening to when it comes up, no matter how sad it might make them feel. Number 4. David Bowie left a legacy lasting decades with iconic and mesmerizing music. One of those songs back in 1970 was The Man Who Sold the World. While this song was legendary and hasn't aged at all, Nirvana's cover of it at MTV's Unplugged session, in my opinion, may be slightly better. In one of Kurt Cobain's journals, The Man Who Sold the World was one of Cobain's top 50 favorite albums. When you hear his voice and delivery, you can tell that this song means something to him. As stripped down and quiet as it may seem, it makes it all that much more entrancing when you think about Nirvana and how they truly did change the musical landscape at the time.
Oh no, not me. We never lost control.
The guitar work and very light drums all contribute to a peaceful moment that Nirvana wasn't always known for. This Unplugged session is what I point at when people say Nirvana was overrated. And as for David Bowie's thoughts on the cover, he loved it. Bowie was quoted saying back in 2004, "I was simply blown away when I found out that Kurt Cobain liked my work, and have always wanted to talk to him about his reasons for covering The Man Who Sold the World, and that it was a good straightforward rendition and sounded somehow very honest. It would have been nice to have worked with him." Whether the original from 1970 or the Unplugged performance back in 1993 is your choice, this song, The Man Who Sold the World, has stood the test of time across generations. David Bowie wrote a fantastic song and Nirvana introduced it to an entirely new generation and continent. I think just about everyone misses Bowie and Nirvana, but one thing we can be happy about is this song by both of them. Number 3. The Beatles truly changed the world in the 1960s, and their cover of Twist and Shout turned every single teenage girl into a raving maniac for these boys from Liverpool. What many people don't realize, though, is that Twist and Shout was originally written by Phil Medley and Burt Russell in 1961 and performed by the Top Notes. That recording was then covered by the Isley Brothers in 1962, which was then covered by the Beatles on their debut album Please Please Me in 1963. It can't be stressed enough, and it's hard to truly think about a band who has had the same impact even in the past 20 years, but the Beatles changed the world, and this cover helped.
Come on and twist a little closer now. Twist a little closer, let me know that you're mine.
John Lennon's voice sounds gleefully energetic, and as simple as the rhythm and lyrics are, it's undeniably fun to listen to and sing along with over 50 years later. It's interesting to note that during the original album recording, Lennon had a terrible cold and you can audibly hear his rough voice on the recording, but with all the famous live versions, including the performance on The Ed Sullivan Show, it's safe to say that this many performances, along with the band, still stand out in the best ways. While the Beatles have proven their writing ability in wildly varying ways over the course of the 1960s, they also proved they can work with another's material. After the single itself going platinum in many countries around the world, along with just about everything else the Beatles have done, it's hard not to recognize this cover as something special. Number 2. It's another cover of a Bob Dylan song on this list, and the final two spots on this list were a toss-up of which one was best, but even with All Along the Watchtower being at number 2, I don't think anyone can deny that this is one of the greatest and strongest covers ever. There might be only one person who could cover Bob Dylan and do it better, and that's Jimi Hendrix. It's not just any specific sequence or section, but the entire song, from the vocal delivery, the timing and the quiet moments and the build-up, and the obviously amazing guitar work that only Jimi Hendrix is capable of. Many people don't know this, but Jimi Hendrix's cover in 1968 was recorded only 6 months after the original was released by Bob Dylan. They did not waste time. Decades later now, people hear this song and they think of the Vietnam scene in Forrest Gump, but this cover by Jimi Hendrix experience is much more than that. It is an ode to hearing a song that connects with you and taking it to the next level. As amazing of a songwriter as Bob Dylan is, I still feel Jimi Hendrix had completely made this song what it truly is. While Dylan's was very straightforward, Hendrix's is thematic and is so rich and full of sound that it's hard to find even one thing not to love about it. Rolling Stone even listed this cover as the 47th greatest song of all time on their list of 500 greatest songs. I can never take away from Bob Dylan as a musician and especially as a writer, but the Jimi Hendrix Experience turned an amazing song into a masterpiece. Jimi is another legend we lost way too soon, but he left behind performances that are unforgettable.
There must be some kind of way out of here. Say the joker to the thief.
Number 1. Okay, let's just stop this for a second. Many of you, if not most, knew this was going to be number 1 on the list. How could it not be? In 1994, Nine Inch Nails ended one of their most defining albums, The Downward Spiral, with possibly the most hauntingly sad performances about regret and life choices, with references to self-harm and drug abuse. It would be nominated for a Grammy and be performed live as a concert closer for years, as well as being one of the most respected songs from the industrial giants. And in what feels like it came out of an alternate timeline, one of the greatest country and rock artists ever, Johnny Cash, recorded a cover of the song in 2002, which would almost overnight become a commercial mainstay across genres and media.
What have I become? My sweetest friend.
I don't know whether it's because it was an unexpected cover from Johnny Cash or because it feels different in tone, but Johnny Cash has literally broken grown men down to tears with this performance. Turning Trent Reznor's song about self-destruction into a ballad about being at the end of your life and looking back at all the bad times somehow comes in more clear than the original. I know that I am an outlier when I say that I hold Nine Inch Nails' performance as high as Cash's, but even with that being said, I cannot think of any cover of a song in rock or other genre that is better than Hurt. What seals the deal for Cash's version as being the best cover is the build in volume and consistent speed to the ending line of I Would Find a Way. The guitar and piano combined with Johnny Cash's deep vocals and then realizing this was one of the last songs he ever recorded, well, it's hard not to get overwhelmed by it all.
I will let you down. I will make you hurt.
I can make arguments for a song of whether the original or cover is better. Sometimes I think they're equally as good, but as for me, Johnny Cash's Hurt is the best cover song in rock. Ever.
I would find a way.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Is there a cover I'm missing out on? Let me and everyone else know in the comments. Huge thanks to Andy Rocketeer who helped with the title cards and transitions on this one. You can follow him and check his work at Andy Rocketeer on Twitter. Please subscribe and let me know if there's a top 10 video you want to see. You can follow Rocked on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and check out my last Regretting the Past on why we don't listen to Kid Rock.